What's good, people? It's about that time to randomly relate reverse rants, no hate. So, all right, let's get into this. So I had a video up. As of now, it's still up, and I'm gonna pull it down. But I left it up because there's no shame in making a mistake. But anyway, so the video is about Moses Itauma calling out Philip Hrgovic. And to be honest with you, my head and my mind, I'm picturing Kabayel. I couldn't even register a picture for Philip Hrgovic's face. So I'm when I didn't even pull up Kabayel's record at the time. I pulled up Philip Hrgovic's record. Now Google made a screw up, or one of the servers for Google made a screw up, because when I pulled up his record, it has him at 17-0. So I'm definitely picturing Kabayel, though, not Hrgovic. Even though I put his name in, I'm picturing his face. So something just started feeling weird, right? When I saw the 17-0. Then I'm picturing, like, wait. I remember I was in Dave and Buster's watching Philip Hrgovic versus Zhang. And I'm like, wait a minute. Philip Hrgovic. That's when I said, hold up. I pull his stuff up and it says 17-0. Then I'm like, nah, hold up. 17-0. But Kabayel's name, I'm not thinking of. I'm thinking about Philip Hrgovic's name with Kabayel's face to it. So I'm like, wait a minute. So I go in, I put in Philip Hrgovic on YouTube versus, and the fight with Triple D came up. And right away, I'm like, wait a minute. What the fuck am I? So I'm like, hold up, wait a minute, man. Then I'm like, I'm screwing up somebody's name here. Something ain't right. Man, I then really forgot about Hrgovic's face. Honestly, I'm not even picturing this dude. So then I typed in, wait a minute. Who defeated Frank Sanchez? Because I couldn't remember Kabayel's name, but I'm picturing Kessler. I'm like, wait, this can't be the same person. So I type it in, and the fight comes up with Kabayel stopping Frank Sanchez. That's the fighter I was picturing, right? And I'm like, all right. Then I said, wait a minute, yeah. Then I started remembering Hrgovic. I remembered, like, I'm like, wait a minute. I remember seeing him. I'm like, yeah. Okay, so he does have the one loss. Okay, so now let me say this instead of doing a part two, because I'm just gonna either leave the other one up or take it down. Probably take it down because I'm explaining it in this video. So here's how I see this: Moses Itauma calling out Kabayel. Philip Hrgovic. He said that's the guy that he'd fight if he had his way. Now, that guy has more fights than him, just like Dillian White had more fights than him. Now, Dillian White, we know, is washed. So Itauma, getting rid of him the way he did what he was supposed to do. Now, I don't think, so let me make this clear so everybody understands. Philip Hrgovic, I never really thought much of. Like, he's durable, flat-footed, slow, stands right in front of you, there to be hit. I never thought much of him. I'm aware that people go crazy over a fighter, and you hear them talk about this guy all the time. Like Philip Hrgovic versus this guy, that guy. Yo, he's tough. He's this. He's tested. So I commend Moses in that sense, because it's like, hey, I'm only 14-0, but I want to test myself. I do want to fight the best guys. But like I said, at the time when I'm doing the video, I'm picturing Kabayel. Now, Kabayel is 27-0. Okay, Hrgovic is like, what is it, 19-1 or something like that. So sometimes, and also sometimes to the names that you say to Google or whatever, it might be a fighter with a similar name or however, but no, I seen his face. That's when I said, wait a minute. And you, as you can see in the thumbnail, I'm like, nah. I typed it in. And it's like, yeah. So how the hell they had him match 17-0? But that happens a lot of times with other scenarios too, with different people. Because I've seen certain fighters, I forget this guy's name. They had this guy as undefeated. It was some Indian boxer, man. Some a fraudulent Indian boxer. They had this guy as undefeated. Then they had him with like 5 losses or something like that or whatever. Or so I don't know. But anyways, that's still a decent pick as far as Hrgovic goes in terms of his record and the fact that he's been in there with Zhang and he has been tested and battered, but I believe that even with his one loss to Daniel Dubois, I don't see him as really being a threat. I think Moses will go through him, but what Moses would be doing is taking a guy that people respect, and yeah, he's been in some compelling fights and toe-to-toe battles and all that, and he will show like, hey, listen, I'm leaps and bounds above the rest of these guys, man. So these guys that has respect on their name, I'm going to destroy them. That's what I'm doing. I'm taking them out. So I believe that him versus Filip Hrgovic would just be just that. Here's a guy that has respect on his name. And look at what I did to him. That pretty much, I don't think much of Hrgovic. I got to make that clear. Because, like I said, I was getting him mixed up with Kabayel. I completely wasn't even thinking about Hrgovic as far as his face went. I don't know how the hell. Yeah, I do that shit. I used to, name-wise, I used to get Gerald McClellan and Milton McCrory. I'm picturing one guy, but I'm saying the other. Whatever. So, certain names, yeah, throw me off at times, shit like that. But as far as Hrgovic goes, I never thought much of him, man. Like I said, slow, flat-footed, there to be hit, durable, tough, can take punishment, will give punishment, one-dimensional. So a Derek Chisora type guy, the type of guys that the fights will be exciting in terms of the action or the competitiveness, but there's no defense going on, no real wise punch selections, no high ring IQ, just rock'em sock'em robots type of stuff. And for people that like that, then they like Hrgovic. But I think Moses Itauma will go through him, man, like a hot knife through butter, like a hot butcher knife through butter. I think he'll beat him badly. Moses is too quick, too much hand speed, the movement, confidence, the sharpness, everything. Now him versus Kabayel. That's why I spoke the way I did, picturing that scenario, him versus Kabayel. I think Moses beats Kabayel too, but I think Kabayel is better than Filip Hrgovic. And the fact of the matter is of him wanting an undefeated fighter like himself. That's the point of what I was going at, and it's like, no, that's the guy I was talking about. In my head was I'm picturing Kabayel. But listen, we don't know what happens to these guys fight. The point is, all of them have more fights than Moses Itauma. And as far as the experience goes, like I said, for him to target guys that are more of that's more in the spotlight. Because, like example, it's like the difference between me saying Wilder should go after these washed up guys that have respect on their name, because at least it keeps him active. And like the Chisora fight, people was reacting to this fight like, the people in attendance is, I hit it, and every punch that landed, so the difference between watching two old washed up guys, one guy claims he's retiring and the other guy, says, that he wants to continue on. But the one guy saying last dance, last chance, he can't afford another loss. So at least if he take that route, it's far more respectable than fighting a guy ranked 250 and 238 and 500 and all that. So you go after guys like that, keep the streak alive, your winning streak alive, and then the fact that it's an all British thing, he came over here and defeated 3 British fighters. Well, if that road leads to a possible showdown with Anthony Joshua, then hey, it's not so much about a championship for Wilder. He's not going to say that, but Wilder wants that big payday. Where Moses Itauma is a young guy, he's hungry in the division. He looks like the more promising fighter in the division, period. So yeah, man, it's not a bad pick to pick Hrgovic. You know what I'm saying? Because Hrgovic has respect on his name, but it's not a thing where people are looking at him like he's washed up. I just don't think much of him. You know, he's not nothing to him. There's not much to him. You know what I mean? The worst thing that can happen to you against a guy like Hrgovic is if you are a guy like with Zhang, who has bad stamina. And because Zhang was tattooing this guy, he was winning the fight, man, and then he started getting tired. Once the Zhang got tired, that's when Zhang fell apart. And we all know that Zhang gas tank has always been an issue, not his skills. You know, but yeah, I definitely would you know, favor Kabayel over Hrgovic. And I think that with him having way more fights than Moses, it's that more impressive as well. Now, when Kabayel destroyed Frank Sanchez, I remember thinking, what the hell, Frank didn't look the same. I still don't know. I've heard different things about he was injured in that fight or something, but I know he definitely just didn't look the same. And I mean, Frank was one of the more skilled guys in the division, and out of nowhere, he looks like dog shit against Kabayel. So that was the fight that I was talking about. And when I look at him at 27-0 versus 14-0, there's a lot more fights there. So there's a lot more experience now. Hrgovic doesn't have that many more fights, but he still does have more fights, 19-1, versus 14-0. But skill-wise, in the eye test of what I see, I still pick Moses. But the fact that Moses wants these fights, the fact that he's saying, hey, like, it's not like he's picking a guy, like, hey, he could have picked somebody, 17-9. You understand what I'm saying? That has, way more fights, but a whole lot of losses as well. The same way he could pick a Joe Joyce. The Dillian White fight, when it happened, people was actually saying it was disrespectful. I remember, what I find really crazy is, like, even when Joe Joyce was talking, or even Daniel Dubois was talking about fighting against Dillian White, and Dylan's brother Dean is talking about it was disrespectful, as if Daniel Dubois wasn't ready or something like that. And one thing I've always said about Dillian White is that Dillian has always been one-dimensional, right? But the thing is, Dillian comes to fight and he wants to fight, but now he's completely washed up. He's completely washed up. There's nothing left to Dillian. Dillian, like Derek Chisora, is one of these guys like Deontay Wilder that just don't sharpen up on their skills. They just come to fight. But there's no plan B. Shit, they don't even really have a plan A. Other than just basically, let's just go out there and throw some punches. No real rhyme or reason. And Dillian White, here's a guy that every knockout, every fight he lost is due to the uppercut. But he got destroyed, by Itauma. He put up no resistance whatsoever. And, a couple of months ago, he's barking at Derek Chisora, talking about he just want to fight, he want to fight, he want to fight. And basically with the respect that he does have, what you did in the past is in the past. He's done. And this is, again, why I say Wilder should go after him. And then Joe Joyce. And then, hey, man, somebody got to stop this guy. He comes over here and he's beating up all our fighters, man. Like our, guys that's well respected in the sport. And hey, like I said, if it leads to AJ, cool. But and also again, Moses Itauma could also call Wilder's name. Everybody knows that that's child abuse right there. We don't know what Anthony Joshua may show up against Itauma, so we don't know. But again, and at some point, if AJ can sustain and keep his name out there, at some point, yeah, either Moses calls him or they sit down and want to make this fight or however, whatever. But all those guys are hitting at the ends of their career. They're at the ends of their careers. All of those guys. Tyson Fury, all of it. Doesn't matter. He come back and I don't know who he's fighting against, whatever, but it doesn't matter. These guys are all, they're no longer in their primes. Moses is the new face of the heavyweight division as far as I'm concerned. Now, guys like him and Fabio Wardley, Kabayel, those are the guys that stand out with him right now. And Hrgovic only has the one loss, but again, I don't think much of Hrgovic. I just think stylistically, I think that Moses is a freaking nightmare for Filip Hrgovic, man. Too easy to hit. Moses has too much speed and power, too much movement, and he's smart. So I just don't see that fight being really competitive. Now, Kabayel, on the other hand, I picture Moses beating him as well. But I just, but the fact of the matter is this, like I said, you want to target the guys that are of your generation, more of your generation. And like I said, Hrgovic only has the one loss. I think Moses beats Daniel Dubois as well. I think he knocks out Daniel Dubois. I just think he picks him apart. He catches him clean. He hurts him. And we all know that Dubois is the kind of fighter, if you're not throwing anything at him, he'll throw punches at you. He'll try to walk you down. And he'll try to hurt you and try to get you out of there. But as soon as he feels something he doesn't like, he retreats. And anything coming back at you is just throw something. No real rhyme or reason with him, man. And not only that, once he gets hit clean, he gets hurt bad, and the fight just goes out of him. Every time this guy's been dropped, he looked like he's exhausted. Like when he goes down, the look on his face, he looks terrified, like oh, not this again. I don't see him beating Moses Itauma either. So even though Daniel Dubois beat Filip Hrgovic, I think that, he beats both of them. I think he beats Kabayel as well. I just think Kabayel puts up a better fight than Hrgovic because I think he's better than Hrgovic. I think he'll beat Hrgovic himself. These guys have to test themselves, man, and that's the whole point, is that he's picking guys that people are at least talking about, picking guys that's respected for what they're doing now, not what they've done. And that's where I was going with that. And but I don't think Hrgovic is a bad pick for him at all. I just don't see him putting up much of a real fight, posing a real threat. And also, one of the family had also brought that up. But, I was aware of it already. And I'm like, I'm going to go, I know I was going to make this video. Right now, it's 7:02 in the morning. Get ready to get my workout in. And, yeah, man. Moses is looking good, man. Moses is looking like, like I said, like he's that guy right now. And for any other heavyweight that's a prospect that's coming up, that's a part of his era, that's who he's going to have to make his name with. And like I said, having Fabio Wardley with him, having Kabayel with him, those, either one of those two fights can be big fights with him. Now, if one of those, let's say if Fabio and Kabayel fight each other, having one loss doesn't mean you're not a good fighter. But at the same time, it's like, okay, and depending on how they lose, how they look in the fight. Like Frazier Clark and Fabio, their first fight was so good that people assumed the second one will be the same. And then in the second fight, Fabio destroyed him, gave him the Bobby Brown mouth. You know, but yeah, he did all of that, and so yeah, now you don't hear about Frazier Clark. Now, in terms of Wilder and AJ and Fury and Usyk, we don't, like I said, those guys, Joe Joyce, Dillian White, those guys are, fading. Joseph Parker, he's still out there, and I can see him being a victim. I could see him being one of the rib cages that they bring to the line. And I just don't think Joseph Parker will be the Tommy either. And the thing with all of these guys, and here's the thing but the thing is, when you have experience, that can keep you in the fight, longer than a guy who is explosive, young, but not that seasoned, and just make mistakes and hasn't fought anyone that could really punch them yet. Itauma isn't showing a bunch of flaws in the ring. That's what people that watch him see this. He's not in there showing a bunch of flaws. Itauma is showing that he's that guy. The thing is, time doesn't stand still for anybody. You can be the youngest heavyweight of all time. You can be all that, and at some point, guess what? Every year is your birthday. And at some point, you're no longer young. Especially like in the sport of boxing. Like, fighters age quickly, man. So whoever he's looking at, like he said, if he could pick an opponent next, it would be Hrgovic. Okay, cool, no problem. Guy only has one loss. I don't know how they view Kabayel. I don't think there's anybody in the division that Moses don't want to fight or his team don't think that he can beat. But it's about moving them one step at a time. So the thing is, it's not, everybody talk about legacy. The guy's still fighting. Your legacy is talked about when you're done. What you're adding to your legacy and all that, fine. And it's a bunch of shit anyway, man. Just a bunch of opinions of people telling you who and what you were. People don't define you, man. But it's when you look at the body of work, you can look and say, look at this guy fought him, he fought him, and he fought this guy. You can't fault him. The Dillian White fight was a statement. Okay, Dillian White has respect in his name. Bam, look at what I did to him. Hrgovic, no different. Any of them. I want guys that have respect on their names. I'm not looking at a guy. Like, just say, for example, if he picked Jared Anderson, how many of y'all really think Jared Anderson has a chance to beat Itauma? If he was to pick Martin Bucoli. Martin Bucoli was a guy that was talking a lot of shit. Everybody's scared to fight him. These guys don't want to fight me. Makes bad decisions, doesn't take his training serious, comes in there fat, pot-bellied, look pregnant, and then he loses, and it's an excuse. It's like, so Martin Bucoli's name doesn't even come up anymore. You know what I mean? So position yourself to while everybody else is talking, you go in there and fight and you win. And like I said, by the time you get a championship fight, you're in a position of, damn, look at who he's beaten already. He's not in here taking the easiest routes. He's fighting the guys that's supposed to be good. Now, granted, this era of heavyweights, this boxing period, is just like people overuse the word great fighter, great for now. It's not a whole bunch of great motherfuckers. I just see decent or good. I don't see great. Itauma, looks like a great talent. Terrence Crawford looked like a great talent. The New Wave looks like a great talent. Usyk looks like a great talent. The majority of what we see now is spectacle fights, big money fights. In terms of greatness, though, popularity puts you in a position of everybody knows this guy. This is a mega fight. No. In terms of greatness, in terms of of two fighters going in the ring and they're both peak. They're both, highly skilled. No, we're not really seeing, like, when you look at their resumes. Nah, it's more of a popularity thing, and these guys are good or decent, but not great. So you can have a great talent, but who have you fought that's just as great as you are? Who have you fought that's on that level? That's what you got to look at. And like example, you can't take Terrence Crawford's win over Canelo away, but because both of these guys are at the end of their careers, right? Now, every time you turn around, somebody's throwing something at Crawford. You got an MMA guy calling his name. You got some crazy chick he used to date or whatever, some from his past calling his name. And Canelo, oh, he only way he gets respect for that win is if he fight me. Nah, no, they know if he fights you again, he gets respect because he went there and beat your ass at the weight class that you and your fans say that you're unbeatable at, right? And he goes in there and he beats the guy easily, right? Well, for people to say, oh, Canelo's not the same, Canelo's old, I told you guys, the excuses will happen, but at the same time, he's a guy that's 3 years older. He's 2 or 3 years older than Canelo. Same way, Floyd, 2 3 years. He's what 3 years, 2.5, 3 years older than Manny Pacquiao. But somehow he waited for Pacquiao to get old. Like all of these stupid things that people say, And so you don't want to be that fighter in the position of, I have opponents. The eye test shows me he's dangerous. Yeah, but he's not a draw yet. Don't worry about him. Focus on the seat, and that's what we get so sick of seeing in boxing. So for Moses Itauma to want to call out guys, that are still active and not at the end of their careers, cool. That's cool. Let's see those fights, and I think that he'll beat Hrgovic. I think he'll beat all of them, but we need to see the fights. Case in point, Moses Itauma right now, he's that guy, man. And we see it all the time, though. These fighters, they're hungry. They look impressive. He's not a big talker. I respect that about him. He reminds me of AJ a lot in that sense. I'm not into all of the yeah. You can do all of that. There's nothing entertaining about it. Muhammad Ali was out here doing poetry. He was rhyming, calling rounds on people, and then going out there and doing it and all that kind of stuff, man. He stood up for something. He was about the people. He stood for civil rights. He was willing to put his life on the line, as opposed to going to fight a war that had nothing to do with him and his people, him and his country, period. He wasn't even free to own the country that he's born and raised in, so he had a lot going on. Plus in the ring, he was dynamic as fuck. So, that's a difference. Showmanship and just running your mouth are two different things. People always think that somebody just got a big mouth is good for the sport. Then they don't back it up. They don't want to really fight the best. So, hopefully Moses Itauma doesn't take that route. But, hey, man. In the sport of boxing, in this world of entertainment, that seems to be that is bigger than boxing now. Everybody want to be an entertainer. They want to be famous. They want to be well known. But as far as putting the work in, that's where they fall short. Maybe Moses will be different. Maybe Moses will be a guy that take the route that that AJ took and was just fighting better and better opponents. And before AJ got to the point of him, usually just say a guy in men's boxing, most fighters don't win championships, at least to their past 20-something fights. AJ got his on his 15th or 16th fight or something like that. 14th, 15th or 16th, something like that. And it was no turning back. And he just kept fighting better fighters, just, kept it within top 10. Man, he wasn't out here backpedaling and trying to fight guys that he know he could beat type of thing. Now he was fighting, whoever they brought in front of him. He gave Dominic Brazil his first loss like this. And then these are things that people overlook. So when I listen to a fighter say, I want to fight this guy or I want to fight that guy, and then pretty much, it's not someone like example when Jarrell Miller came back out of when he when he got out of his little suspension and he came back, first two names he called out, and this is how you know. I told you I don't care what comes out of Jarrell Miller's mouth. Jarrell Miller is just a talker, man. He's not nearly as good as he talks like he is. The first two names that came out of his mouth was who? Derek Chisora and Dillian White. I want to fight a Brit. I want to fight a Brit, right? And when he called their names out, that's my point. When he called their names out, they were already washed up. They've been washed up. You know, when a fighter still has something left in the tank in terms of I'll go in there and throw punches and take punches. I mean, come on, man. Why would you not? Yeah, he calls AJ's name after calling him, before calling him a drug cheat. Then he's the one that was the one dirty that was cheating. Then after, same thing, and he comes back making all this noise. He never really called Deontay Wilder's name. He just basically talked about screwing his chick and all of that. But bottom line is, even him telling AJ, fight me and go to the hospital, or fight Deontay and go to the grave, is his way of saying, we both will beat you, but I'll put you in the hospital. Wilder will kill you, right? And I always looked and said, these are the guys you should want to fight. Now, when he did say he wanted to fight Wilder didn't respond. He never responded to this guy, right? But my thing is, when you come back wanting to fight the very top guys, right? So to come back and want to take two of the weakest guys in the division, and people understand that, like, yeah, you got respect on your name, man, but let's be real, man. You haven't done anything in a long ass time. And that's what Jarrell Miller was doing. Let me pick somebody with respect on their name. That's all he was doing. Let's not forget, he got beat by Daniel Dubois decisively, and then made excuses as to why he lost. After saying, little bro surprised me, calling him a shrimp and all that, but then he turns around and makes excuses as to why he lost that fight. And this is not what you want to see. Last year, you saw Jarrell Miller and Jared Anderson face-to-face claim that they were going to fight next. It doesn't happen. All of these guys that you see, they walk up, they shake hands in front of the camera, they say they're going to fight each other next, and they don't. They're never, they're never in full disclosure about why the fight didn't happen after they said they wanted to fight each other. So just saying something doesn't mean anything. Anybody can talk, and people don't even care. They'll say one thing, then turn around and completely just do something different. And right now, man, I don't think that there's nobody out there in the heavyweight division that Moses can't beat. I feel like he can beat all of those guys. But we want to see him tested and fighting different styles, fighting guys that bring a different threat to the table. That's how you get sharpened, because you see, you have to use different techniques, different punch selections, your timing, your rhythm, everything to beat different guys. And when you get to that point, this is where the experience takes you, where it doesn't matter what you trained for. What's in you is what's in you. This is why I never understand when fighters train for a particular fighter, but then they get in there with a different guy, and it's just like they somehow don't remember how to fight. Like, bro, it's like, just say, for example, too, right, to show you, like, amateur behavior. How tall is Deontay Wilder? 6'7", right? I don't remember how tall Derek Chisora is, but he's a lot shorter. Derek Chisora wasn't coming in with head movement, coming behind a jab, nothing. He was just coming in, leaning, literally doing this and trying to get close, holding his hands up, like literally just walking in. Deontay Wilder was getting low to keep him from coming in with the pressure to get to his body. But instead of him, with the feints and his Derek lunges, for him to turn and come back with the uppercut, he's literally going backwards and throwing the uppercut where it's nothing but an arm punch. Okay, and there was nothing coming behind the jab. One punch at a time with Wilder. And for him to be 40 years old or whatever, and he's still fighting the same exact way he always did, just now he's slower, and he's definitely not even what he was. When I see that, all the ooh, the ah, and right, and because of that fight with Chisora, who's washed up as well. Imagine if they built this up and decided, hey Moses, I got an idea. People are talking about Wilder again, because he went in there, he took some shots, but he gave the shots, and he got the win. A split decision win over Derek Chisora, right? We want to push you to that next level. If you go in there and you destroy the Bronze Bomber, especially if you do it worse than Fury did, imagine where that puts you. They could do that. I don't think if they did that, the very next fight is championship. But even if it is, and the only reason I say that is because, again, when you get the title, if your body of work already says, hey, I'm here to stay, cool. The thing is, people want you to become champion. As opposed to moving you too soon, and because you're in a weak-ass division, you become champion, and yet you're just fighting whoever. But there's no real big fights. And the guys that people want to see you fight, those fights don't happen. You get these guys before, and this is why this era is all about the 4-belt era. Everybody wants to be undisputed. So if you got these names already, now they got to give you somebody that's worthy, right? Who's next in line? Who are these different guys, right? So your legacy is not built off of chasing old washed up fighters. Your legacy is built off of beating current guys who's undefeated, current guys who has proven themselves to be good in this generation, in this era, and then pretty much, you're a champion and can be for a long time. And I just feel like, when you look at boxing as for what it is, again, you can have a good talent or a talent that's a great talent, but see, when you look and call somebody a great fighter, you got to look at their career, man. Because you got a lot of fighters that can be flashy and look good. Well, we keep using that word great. Anyway, case in point, Moses Itauma is that guy. And yeah, it's Kabayel that I was picturing, not Philip Hrgovic. So when he said Hrgovic, that's the face that popped up in my head. Completely forgot. I couldn't even remember what Philip Hrgovic looked like. Then when I pulled him, okay, then it all started coming back. So yeah, salute to the family that also brought that to my attention. And see, that's what I love, because it shows me that y'all pay attention and that you guys are understanding what's happening. And then too, I get so disinterested with this shit, but I'm never going to be disingenuous. I'm never going to tell you something wrong on purpose. But I'm also man enough to let you know, like, nah, I screwed up with that because I was, So I'm going to put this video up. I'll leave that one up until this one uploads. Once this one uploads, then I'll take that one down. And this explains it all. That's why I'm doing this instead of just taking it down with no explanation. I'm not, we're human. I'm not, going to pull something down like, oh, shit, no. Nah. Yeah, you don't know how many times I've been talking. Some of you might remember. And I'm saying John McClellan versus Donald Curry. But in my mind, and I'm like, wait a minute. Nah. I'm meaning Milton McCrory. You know what I'm saying? For whatever reason, I would get those two guys' names mixed up all the time. Like, all right. And then when I go watch the video, you know what? They'll get it. They know what I'm talking about. So, yeah. Try not to do that. But that just happens with names, man. Anyway, that's all I got for you guys right now. Tell me what y'all think about Moses versus Kabayel. You tell me what you think about him versus Hrgovic. I personally don't see Hrgovic as that big of a threat. It's like the family in the comment section said in the last video. I agree. Like, yeah, I never thought much of Hrgovic. Never. I constantly would hear Eddie Hearn talk about him, and Frank Warren and different people bringing his name up. Different boxing channels, people, and I'm like, I just don't see it. I just don't see it. I picked Kabayel over Hrgovic. Tell me what y'all think in the comment section. Never fall in love with lies. Remember the truth brings hate out of people, and I will catch y'all. on the next video.